For those of you who might have missed our National Spiritual Care Leaders Network held on what are we up to today? The 18th, February the 18th. We'd really like to give you a little, some highlights from that conversation because it was just an absolute pleasure to listen to Luke Bowen and Ali Ernst in conversation together. So I'm going to hand over to Luke and he'll introduce them so that you can enjoy these highlights.
Well, it's great to be part of this webinar today, and Luke Bowen, the Director of Best Care Improvement and Systems from Western Health, hosting a conversation with Ali, who comes to us as an Executive Director with Lutheran Services. And Ali spoke to us a bit today about her leadership journey and the idea of influence and professional currency within the realm of spiritual care. And Ali, we've talked a bit about influence and turning up as the professional. And what are some of those moments for you that have really highlighted the importance of who you are, what you do, and how that language and influence can make an impact in organisations at the bedside to the boardroom table?
Yeah, thanks, Luke. Look, and just reflecting on my journey in the conversation, we reflected about different spaces. I've been in a number of different spaces, sometimes more feels like a bit more at the margins, trying to influence, and sometimes now in my role as Executive Director, Mission Identity and Culture, it's a bit more still influencing from more of the senior table, boardroom, executive table, but you're still influencing. And so there's been for me a lot of reflecting about the space I'm in and who I'm talking to, who am I trying to influence and why, what am I trying to get out of here, and really thinking about
attention all staff, respond at
and thinking about, well, and isn't that a good example of where we find ourselves, right, with the interruptions, and what's the language being spoken in this space, right? Who am I speaking to? What does my CEO need? What does my colleague need? Who am I and how are we working together to a shared cause? That's been really important for me to notice and to recognize and to get that alignment between what I'm trying to do and the people I'm working with and the people that I'm maybe trying to influence, and to be able to share and to speak in their language even about what am I doing? What are we doing? What are we doing together? And how do I talk about spirituality, pastoral care, some of those things that we care about in a way that makes sense to them and in a way that is a response to their questions. So that I think that's been the other important thing of not bringing my agenda into the room, but bringing my listening into the room to listen out for what are the questions here, right? What are the people around this table asking about? And then how do I bring something into this conversation, either as myself, as a leader, as a professional in this space, or with the training that I bring, or how does the work that I do, whether it's pastoral care or chaplaincy, whatever I do, how does that contribute, and how do I bring that to this question? And if the question is about person-centered care or client outcomes, then how do I speak to that? If the question or conversation is about how are we a values-driven organisation, well, then that conversation is going to sound different. But either way, I bring myself into that, and I bring something to that conversation. And that, so we talked a bit about that and ways of leading in that space, and thinking about the language you use, thinking about who you are, thinking about what you bring to that.
Great, Ali. And I suppose where we finished was really that idea of stepping into the room as a professional and obviously acknowledging the uniqueness of who we are, what we do, our own role within the broader team, but the importance of owning that, showing up with that, and really being able to contribute in a way that builds not only influence but also credibility and offers that unique part of the care relationship as well. And I just wonder, Ali, any final comments as we think about those frameworks and the integrity within that?
Look, I think for some of the final comments, also, I mean, we talked about tell your own story, have your space where you can tell your story, especially if you feel like you're in a space that doesn't hear you, if you feel like you're in a space where the things you care about don't get heard and don't get cared about. So I think that becomes important, is having a space where you can listen to yourself and your own story and share that and have even wise counsel around you. I think that was important. I think we talked a bit too around noticing the small changes, noticing that you're in a system and somewhere around you something good is happening. How can you look out for even the small things that are good, the people around you that are advocates, the things that happen that actually are good, that are good pastoral care or good spiritual care, or that support your goals, and how can you amplify that, and how can you celebrate those things and amplify them to as small steps. And in the conversation that we had, that was clearly reflected from around the table of the people who came, that they said, this is not a quick journey. This is a slow building foundations, and we share. And I loved hearing that actually from people who participated in the conversation, how much we are each in our own different ways on that shared journey of trying to find ways to be helpful, influential, to get the job done, and to use all the tools at our disposal, whether that's, like somebody mentioned, data and some of the frameworks that we can use, and the support from each other. So there was lots of, I really found that encouraging, that those shared themes and the shared appreciation in the room, around the table of people of each other, and the wisdom that they each bring to that, taking that back into your own space as a noticing what's helpful to you, and where help can come to you from around you. I thought that was lovely. I really enjoyed that in the conversation.
That's amazing, Ali. And I think that what this has now sparked for us as part of these leadership conversations are some other opportunities to think about how we work together as a team, and more conversations around influencing and being leaders within the context in which we find ourselves. So, Ali, I want to thank you so much for the conversation we've had today. It's been an absolute pleasure. We look forward to many more of these conversations over the coming year.
Thank you.
And just to highlight what we've got coming up in the next few months for our Leaders Network, and we hope you can join us. Well done, everyone. Great snapshot.